Hi everyone, welcome back to our lecture series on product case solving. I just want to start off with saying that you have already completed 40%. If you haven't watched the previous videos, you can complete this video first and then go back to the previous videos because there is no prerequisite per se. But as I mentioned in all the videos, I'll try to complete this series. Meanwhile, you also promise yourself that you will complete watching this series because you have started this. Let's finish what we have started. With that introduction, let's go to the topic. So this is the basic thing I have been saying in all the videos. Never jump into solutioning. Understand the problem first, right? Whenever you are getting a problem statement during the interview, you should never jump into solutions. You should try to understand the problem. You should ask more clarifying questions around the problem statement. Maybe spend 5 to 10 minutes time to understand it, and only then you should think of solutioning. You might have already heard this, but how do we do that? How do we understand the problem? How do we ask the clarifying questions? That is what we have been discussing, and we have been discussing about few dimensions we can ask questions around, and today we'll be discussing about two such dimensions. So these are those 7 dimensions or 7 components I've been talking about. We have discussed about scope, we have discussed about users and how to ask the clarifying questions around timeline, features, etc. Today we'll be discussing about competition and goal. How do we ask clarifying questions about the competition? How do we understand the business goal of this problem statement so that we can solve the problem statement without getting stuck anywhere, and we can make sure if we are asking questions about these 7 components, we can make sure that we are not missing anything. We are covering almost everything. And that is the whole idea about spending 5 or 10 minutes time initially during the interview to ask about these 7 questions. Okay. I'll try to explain a bit more about these clarifying questions. Let's say you are asking 3 to 4 questions about each of those components, right? That actually makes total 20 to 30 questions in the first 5 or 10 minutes time during the interview, right? So if you ask these 20 or 30 questions, interviewer will have some data to share with you. They'll only share it with you when you explicitly ask for that. Otherwise, they wouldn't share with you. So you have to ask these questions, and 5 or 10 questions you ask out of these 30 questions or out of these 20 questions. 5 or 10 questions will have some data that the interviewer can share with you. And that is how you will get more context, and you can use this data going forward to solve the problem. This is how you solve any kind of case. It's not just related to product management or something. Even if you are going for a consulting role, you will still get a case solving during the interview. Case solving is more like it's like a DSA round for a developer. That's what case solving is for product managers. So you have to definitely go through the step 1, and then you'll understand which direction you need to. That's the whole point of this exercise. So pay close attention. We'll discuss about the 2 components today. The first one is competition. So this is somewhat obvious for many beginners. As a beginner, it was obvious to me as well. And what I have seen among other beginners is they are also asking questions around competition. So I think this is a bit obvious because whenever you are getting a problem to solve, let's say an example would be the number of cart additions in Zepto has been going down. What is happening? Solve it. If this is the problem statement, like as a beginner, you might think that, okay, did Blinkit also come into the picture? Is that why Is the users going to blink it? Is that why the number of cart addition is going down? So this question around competition is a bit obvious, but what is not obvious is the kind of questions we can ask. What should we understand about the competition, right? So there are basically two things you need to understand about the competition. So these are those two things. Which is the target segment that they are trying to capture, and what are the solutions they provide? This is usually the most basic thing you need to understand about the competition. So I'll repeat, we are talking about one component out of these 7 components, and you should ask questions around these components before jumping into solution. This is what we are doing, and we are currently talking about competition. And what are the two basic questions you can ask about competition? What is the target segment, and what are the solutions they provide? Let's look at one example. Let's say you are getting a question which is a strategy type of question, and you have to you want to ask clarifying questions. So one question you can ask is, what are the solutions the competition offers? For example, let's say Zepto is trying to get into tier 3 cities where Meesho is already there. So what would be the go-to market strategy for Zepto? If this is the question, Meesho is already focused on tier 2 or tier 3 cities, right? So you have to basically understand what are the solutions Meesho is offering, right? As a competition, Meesho is the competition right now. So what are the solutions they offer? And the advantage of this question is, let's say they are only offering products which are low quality or cheap products, let's say, then you understand what is missing, right? What is missing is high quality product, and maybe electronics goods, things like that. Maybe that's what is missing, and this is the advantage of understanding the solutions our competition is offering. So this question regarding the competition and the solutions they offer, it is really important. It will become really important. Another example is during a product design question, if you are asked to design an MVP for peer learning app, let's say. So this is an MVP for peer learning app. If this is the question, you have to clarify what is the target segment. Which users are you going to target? Who are we serving, right? This is the question. Now, what is the advantage of that? You will actually now try to segment the users into maybe 3 or 4 different categories. And there might be one category of users which are not even targeted by any of the competitors, right? Now, if you ask which competitor is tapping which segment, let's say for this peer learning app, the competition can be platforms like LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has LinkedIn Learning, right? Platforms like Unacademy or Coursera, etc. These can be competitors. Now, you can think of the target segment which they are serving, and the advantage of this is you can try to tap a untargeted market, untargeted segment. So that's why we have to understand which segment is our competition serving and what are the solutions they provide. Cool. Okay, so here are few more questions you can ask related to the competition, right? One is basically what is their target segment. Another one is what are the major use cases. But another one is actually which market are they serving? Are they only focused on the local market? Are they also focused on international market? which country do they serve. You can ask these kind of questions. These are more relevant in strategy or design type questions, not that much relevant in a product growth or product metrics kind of question. But still, we do ask about this to understand the context. For a strategy or design type question, this is completely a relevant question. Another question we have to ask about the competition is weakness. What are the weaknesses? So if we ask this question directly to the interviewer, they won't really say that. It will be like directly helping you. Right? So you have to think about these weakness and strength of the competition. So one way we can think about strength is what is the major revenue source they have, and which segment of users are their power users. This we can think about that. For example, Zepto has tier 1 city dwellers as their power users, right? And which regarding weakness, which market do they not serve, and which is their least performing product. So if you are trying to come up with something similar to Zepto, Zepto is your competition, right? So if you think about the weakness of Zepto, you can think in terms of product categories as well. Like which is the least performing category of products in Zepto, right? And you can start with that. So this is one way you can think of coming up with an MVP for a platform similar to Zepto. This is one way. I'm talking about one way. It's not like it will succeed if you just do this, but the idea is to understand about the competition so that we'll make use of their weaknesses and we will make sure we are staying away from their strength areas. So if Zepto is really performing really well in electronics, it's a bad idea to start with that, right? Because your competitor is really, really strong in that area and you shouldn't start with that. So that's the idea of understanding about competition. And I hope that is pretty clear. So yeah, the next one we need to discuss is goal. When I say goal, I actually mean business goal, because product is ultimately built to generate revenue. It should make business sense. Even if you are serving customers, even if your customers are really happy, even if they are repeatedly using your product, that doesn't mean it's a successful business. It should make revenue. It should make business sense. This is in real life, right? Just like that, in PM interviews, whenever the interviewer is asking you or giving you a case to solve, there will be a business goal associated with it. When I was talking about competition, I mentioned that usually beginners don't skip this component. Usually beginners already think about competition, but what beginners do miss is business goals. As a beginner, I also missed this component. I never thought of the business goal or business impact whenever I get a case to solve. But this becomes very, very important, because if the interviewer wants us to go towards a direction where the solution really makes revenue for the company, let's say that is the business goal, but they'll never explicitly tell that to us. We have to ask that. And let's say we miss asking that, and we think that revenue is not the goal. We think that retention is the goal or engagement is the goal. So we'll end up coming up with solutions which are related to engagement, but that's not what the interviewer wants, right? So clearly defining the business goal for that particular problem statement will help you go in the right direction. That is why business goal is really, really important in PM interviews. In reality, in real life, if you are getting a problem, definitely your stakeholder will make sure that you know what the business goal is. They'll take care of that actually. But in an interview, the interviewer may or may not explicitly talk about the business goal. So it is your responsibility to ask about that. And how do we do that? Let's see. Yeah, this is some emoji I used to talk about the business goal, right? Basically, this is the goal, is the direction where we want to go. So we ask about all the 6 components and then we ask about the business goal, because we have to use the data we are getting from all the other 6 components and then use those data to go towards the business goal. This is why we are asking about this business goal and all, right? So ask this question explicitly. What is the goal we are trying to achieve? So even though it might look like, so few beginners have actually asked me, is the business goal pretty obvious because we need to generate profit, right? But no, that is not the case. Let's say Zepto in 2021, they were not running behind profit. They were actually running behind growth. So their metric was not really the profit generated. Their metric was the number of new customers they were serving, and the total order volume or something like that. Reason is, at different points, the business will have different goals. So in an interview, you have to explicitly ask that. Never assume that generating profit is the goal for this problem. Instead, ask for that explicitly. And if you ask explicitly, pretty sure interviewers will be sharing that. And most beginners actually miss this. And even if you are watching this video, you will probably miss this because we are not trained to ask this question. We usually don't think about business goals. So you have to really practice doing this mock interviews. You can get the link from the description of this video. You can do mock interviews with your peers. There is a product aspirant community I'm building. So you can join through the link in the description. You have to actually practice asking these questions. You have to practice solving cases so that you will never miss this question, right? So this is what you have to ask explicitly. What is the goal we are trying to achieve? The most common goals are one of these 4. If you have heard of the typical conversion funnel, these 4 are 4 steps of the funnel, right? Acquisition, activation, retention, and revenue. So it's usually one of these 4 will be the goal for the problem. But in case of product design, it can be, the goal can be different. So if you are, one example I used was MVP for a peer learning app. So the goal for that question might be, we have to validate the demand. So if validation of the demand is the goal, we don't have to really think about revenue. We don't have to really think about activation or retention. We just have to think, how can we create an MVP so that we'll know people need this, so that we'll know people have this pain point. And that is the goal for that particular problem. So even though I have noted down 4 most common goals, goals can be something else too. And that is why you have to really ask about business goals. And what is this acquisition? Acquisition basically means you have to acquire new users. So acquiring new users can be a possible goal, especially for a growth type problem. So if you are asked to grow the number of users, or expand your user base, this could be the goal, right? Retention and revenue, you might already know. Activation is basically the first usage of the product. That is what we call activation. So let's assume the user has already registered or signed up your product, but they didn't use it for one time. So how do you make them use it, right? So this can be one goal as well. Usually product growth problems will have these kind of goals. Even strategy problems will have these kind of goals. But design problems can have different set of goals, right? So you have to explicitly ask that for the interviewer. Now let's see. Let's look at an example. This is a data and metrics type of problem. User watch time on YouTube Shorts has dropped by 25% in the last 2 weeks, despite no major UI or algorithm changes. So this is the question. How would you start? So I don't want you to think of, you are probably thinking of solution right now. I don't want you to think of solutions. As we usually do, look at the keywords and start asking the questions around the 7 components. For this video, let's ask questions around competition, right? First, let's look at the keywords. User watch time. How do we define user watch time? Is it the average or is the total watch time? What is it, right? Yeah, and last 2 weeks is another keyword. Probably something happened 2 weeks before, and it's for YouTube Shorts, which means it's a short format video. It's not long format video, so we can actually think of whether long format video has the same issue happening. If not, this is only concerning the short format video, and if that's the case, why is that? And we can ask about the competition also, right? So that is the yeah, another keyword is no major UI or algorithm changes. So UI or algorithm changes is not there. So it's not something, this didn't happen because of any changes we made in the algorithm or UI. So what is it? Before jumping into solution, before jumping into saying something like, we can make it easier for creators to create dots, or we can add one new feature where whenever people are joining people are coming into the YouTube itself, we are adding this shorts thing in the home page itself. Before thinking in that direction, before thinking of solutioning, ask about the 7 components. And in this case, let's ask about the competition. Who are the competitors, right? So this can be any major players in short form content, which is TikTok. It can be Instagram. In case of India, it can be even Takatak, or there are other copies of TikTok, right? So we have other players in the market. So who are the competitors? And other question can be, are these competitors growing in market share? If they are growing in market share, that might be one reason, right? So we have to ask questions around competition. Is there significant difference in watch time compared to the competitors? So if the same thing is happening for the competitors as well, if their view time is also decreasing, then it probably is not about the competition. Maybe the user behavior itself changed, right? But if there is no significant difference in their watch time, it's only for YouTube Shorts, then probably something is off, and maybe they are doing something right, right? And any significant campaign in last 2 weeks by the competitors. So the 2 weeks I mentioned, right? It is given in the problem statement. So something happened 2 weeks back. Probably that's why, right? So did the competitors do anything 2 weeks back? And is that why the drop is happening? We have to ask that. And the final thing is, what is the goal? Are we trying to increase the market share, or are we trying to engage the existing users, right? If you look at this problem statement, it is not really clear. What are we trying to do? We know that user watch time is decreasing. Is it because users are dropping off from YouTube, or is it because users are still there but they are just not using YouTube Shorts? And what is the goal? Do we want to get more users, or do we want to increase the engagement of existing users, because these are two different goals, and these two different goals will have, we can only reach these two different goals using different set of solutions. So if you assume that engagement is the goal, maybe it is not the goal. Maybe they were the interviewer was looking for something related to marketing, or referral, I don't know. So don't assume that. Just it is just a, you have to just make an effort of 10 seconds to ask this question and make sure that you are going in the right direction. So this is one example how we can ask these questions around one problem statement, and I hope you are following this. So I'll give you one homework, and this is a product design type. So this is a problem statement I mentioned before. Design an MVP for a mobile app that encourages peer-based or community-driven learning. So what are the keywords? It's MVP, and it's mobile app, it's peer-based, it's community-driven, and it's for learning. These are the keywords, right? So go back and try to ask clarifying questions related to the competition and the business, right? If you can, go back to the other videos, watch those videos, and ask clarifying questions related to scope, users, timeline, features, and I think, yeah, total there are 6 components I mentioned now. Try to ask clarifying questions related to these 6 components. And this is how you should spend the first 5 or 10 minutes time of a product case. I hope you will do that. And with that, I want to congratulate you for completing this particular chapter. We are 50% in. I'll be sharing more videos on the same topic. So just stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.